Welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat for the week of September 10th, 2015. I am your host, Jose Otero, and this is IGN's Nintendo Show. I got a full house today, so let's go around the room. First of all, returning Per Schneider.
Brap.
Impersonating a barapper. That's kind of, yeah, Brian's not with us today.
Yep.
That's Per's way of telling you that. Are you doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I just got back from Chicago. I had a nice little trip out there.
Okay,
it was good.
Cool,
yeah.
Nice. All right, joining us once again also, Callie Plaguey.
Hello.
How you doing? You're not impersonating a barapper.
No, that was me being slightly British.
Wow.
And lastly, making a return appearance, Francisco Velasquez from our IGN engineering team.
Welcome. I'm Francisco Velasquez, mobile developer here at IGN. I'm very grateful to be here once again, returning.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Yeah. All right. So first order of business, Super Mario Maker is out tomorrow
Nice.
on the 11th. That's good.
Yes.
We're excited. We've said nothing but great things about that game on this program. Do we have anything left to say about that game is my question.
Well, only there's the patch that slightly changes the way things are unlocked, but it's not completely clear to me yet that is a substantial difference. Now, I didn't have a huge issue with the timed kind of rollout. First of all, you can break it by doing doing the roll back the clock trick, of course, and then moving forward. Yeah. Well, I can't live in the future. I got to go back first.
Hang on. You can go to the future 9 days and then come back to the day that it is. It's amazing.
Backwards time travel is not possible.
Watch out for the Libyans.
But it's slightly different, exactly. It's slightly different now. But we don't know exactly. I mean, like there are certain conditions when you meet them. You use a certain number of blocks, something may unlock, but there's still weight built in. I don't have an issue with it. If you want to cheat, you can still cheat.
Okay, yeah, I think sort of getting worked up over the 9-day thing was a little strange, especially because you can get around it. However, I do think it's smart because it forces you to just kind of learn the tools as they come. You should definitely check it out. I recommend keeping on that program, but I don't blame you if you are dying to make you have a dream course in mind and that's what you want.
The issue with the unlock now, as it's out in the wild, is of course there are people who have all the pieces, and so you're playing other people's levels. And you're like, what? That's awesome! I want sound effects, and then it becomes an issue. If everybody was on the same tile set, just like in Splatoon, where everybody gets a new level at the same time, it'd be a different story.
Sure. Yeah. So you had a pretty cool experience yesterday with Super Mario Maker, Francisco. Why don't you tell that story a little bit?
Yeah, so my wife, Bianca, who's not really a gamer, I gave her over the gamepad so she could try out Mario Maker, and she first did the great intro. That's one of the best intros in gaming history, where like from the title screen you're in like what it looks like level 1-1, and then she's playing through it and there's just this pit. And then I remember you were telling her, just jump. And she takes the leap of faith, and then Mario comes to the rescue and said, they start teaching you. But no, yeah, she had a great time. She's, like I said, not a gamer, but she was enjoying herself. And
so she made a stage. She didn't just do the blueprint stage. She then went on to make more of a stage, or did she just tinker that stage?
No, yeah, she went and made an actual underground level, and she made a pyramid of Goombas, and she was just having a blast with the game.
And it's cool because it's so playful. Once you place a piece, right, it makes that sound. I feel like that's how they get casual gamers too. Like you fill in the gaps in the very first level, and you like block, right? Like it's just fun to create.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think it's something that would bring her into gaming more? Because I've only ever talked to other pretty hardcore into gaming people about Super Mario Maker.
Yeah, I'm hoping it does bring her in because, I'm excited to play more of her creations.
Yeah, it's very cool. Awesome. All right. So, I think ultimately now the power is in your hands, listener. And what we want from you is if you email us at nvc@ign.com, send us good levels. Don't waste our time with like trolley levels or, like gimmicky stuff. Like if it's something you're really proud of, if this is the thing that you would turn in as a kindergartner, like, yes, I made this thing and it's amazing. Like, send that in. Like, we want to check it out because we have a series we're doing here called Made in Mario, where we are trying to sort of find cool levels to recommend to the people on the internet.
Yeah, I would say don't send your first level. Unless you're an amazing designer and this level has been in your brain the entire time, like always, send your best level, create a couple, and then pick one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, cool. So then let's move on to the big business at this table. Oh man, this week, Pokemon Company, Nintendo, and a company that some people may know and some people may not know, but Niantic Labs announced a unique partnership where there is a Pokemon game coming to mobile that is unlike any Pokemon game I think I've seen before, but also very much like some Pokemon games I've seen before. So let's try and give as much context to this conversation as we can. Francisco, I want to throw the ball in your court to give people a bit of a picture of what is Niantic and where did they come from?
Yeah, so Niantic started as a startup at Google, and they created a very popular game called Ingress, which just in the Google Play Store alone, they have over 2 million downloads.
Wow.
And if you watch that press conference where Nintendo had Ingress at the stage, they showed pictures of people actually making gatherings for the game Ingress. When I play the game, they usually send you a mailing. You get subscribed to a mailing list. It's a very involved game, and what I really like about it is that it pushes people to go outside. So it's not a game you just sit at home and you open up your cell phone and just sit there. They actually, the game wants you to go outside, explore. They have what they're called portals, which are hidden in monuments or at parks and stuff like that. So they want people to be aware of their surroundings, exploring.
So they use real-life map data, basically, and then place items or events, set up events around the cities, right? I mean, there have been a couple of AR games. What's actually surprising, that Nintendo, with the 3DS, kicked off AR for their handhelds as well, did a little bit with it, and then just dropped it, right? It's interesting, but some of these, the AR games, the smart ones, rely on there being a lot of people with the game and a lot of people with the device out in public.
Yeah, and the better AR games, I would argue, try to factor in GPS, location, like real world, whereas Nintendo stuff was really kind of separated from that. And in some cases, and maybe it's because of the camera they went with at the time, but it was very creaky technology. Like, it felt like it was based on like using a physical point for the camera to track and then generate sort of an artificial image.
Yeah.
And it was cool, but it wasn't, I feel, enough.
No, and
it was a cool little thing you got with your 3DS.
And obviously, the reason you need a mobile phone for it, apart from the fact that everyone has one in their pocket, right? And that's where you want your monsters to, is that it's always connected. Right, like you cannot duplicate this experience with the 3DS. You can't even do it with the Vita, because the market is split on how many people actually have a connection on the go. Right, and like that's why using this concept on mobile, that's really the only platform you can do it right. I feel
That's right. All right. So then we saw the trailer. We saw. What do
you think of the trailer?
What did you think? Yeah, I'm going to Callie here.
Yeah, so we went through that trailer piece by piece. And it was interesting because it reminded me of a lot of bits and pieces, reminded me of past Pokemon experiments. So during the press conference for Pokemon Go, they kind of related it to Pokemon Snap as far as the interface goes, and then the Pokmon Go Plus, which is that little peripheral that is like a Pokeball, but it's shaped like a geotag, which at first I was like, why is it a melting Pokeball? it's a
I thought that was really clever. You take that back now. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Why
totally
is it?
Kidding.
It's like a little...
why is it that shape?
It's like a tier...
It looks like a spot on a map when you put like a marker.
Everything's... The whole game is like
Gotcha.
GPS oriented, so they made it... It was clever. At first I didn't get it, and then I thought about it. But that
I thought it was like a Salvador Dali Pokemon.
Yeah, I was like, so this is like the melting clocks of Pokemon. But that reminded me of the Pokewalker from 2010 with Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And the Pokewalker was integrated with the main series of Pokemon games. And so I'm interested to see how does Pokemon Go and or the Pokemon Go Plus integrate with the main series.
Yeah, and if you think about it, the concept did kind of does cross over a little bit, right? Like the idea behind the Pokewalker was that you would have an interaction point with Pokemon and you would take them for a walk. And while you were walking, you were gaining, what was it, like experience of some kind or just abilities? I forget. You were basically unlocking things.
You got experience, items. You could get eggs or hatch eggs that way. It was 5 years ago, so it's fuzzy.
But it's interesting because this is like a spin-off, but it is unlike any spin-off I've seen before where, you've seen your Mystery Dungeons, you've seen your Pokemon Snap, you've seen your Pokemon Shuffle, and each one either said, "Oh, you got to catch them all," but they won't do trading, or you're going to battle, but you can't battle other players. Or, this thing seems to incorporate everything. It's really surprising to me how deep this appears to go.
Just for people who haven't followed the announcement, right? The trailer they showed was live action. It was, part of it was a little kind of cloying, hey, look at beautiful Gen Y people, right? But it was also really well done. The way they integrated the CG Pokemon into the real world in that trailer, and like the sense of everybody fighting Mewtwo together was really cool. I thought they did a nice job with that. But what is the product? The product is a game you buy on your Android or iOS device, and it is a watch that connects via Bluetooth to your phone, right?
Yes.
So those two work hand in hand. Yeah. Is it either or? Is it both always?
I don't think you need the Pokemon Go Plus.
Yeah.
The idea, and this kind of goes back to what you said, Francisco, about wanting people to go outside with the game, explore with the game, is that the idea behind the Pokemon Go Plus is that it'll vibrate. It can be a watch or a clip-on, like on your belt or your T-shirt or something. And so you can press buttons on that will interact with the game, so you don't always have to be looking at your phone. Yep. They said during the press conference that they really do want people to be more aware of their surroundings, and that's one of the inspirations for Pokemon Go was everybody has a cell phone. We're all looking at them all the time. Why don't we take that and make it better for people?
Yeah. There were actually two things that stood out to me from this announcement. The very first thing that stood out to me was that it kind of takes it all the way back to the creator of Pokemon, Satoshi, and how he got inspired to make the series. There's, stories that he got inspired to make Pokemon because as a kid he was a big bug catcher, and he would collect them. And this reminds me, with this game, you would be actually able to go outside and, walk around. And then the second thing that interested me was the Pokemon movie, the very first one. I believe where Mew and Mewtwo are created is in South America. And I was like, if they have a Mew in South America, I'm booking a flight just to catch him.
Wow. You're doing those things, huh?
Yeah, which I was kind of wondering that too. Like, how far will you have to go for some of these? And what's going to happen if you live in the middle of nowhere? Like, I mean, if you have poor signal, if you are in a location that doesn't have a reliable signal, like is Wi-Fi enough to get you through this experience?
Right.
Like, what's going to happen there?
And the difference between public transit in Japan and public transit in other places is pretty significant. Japan, it's a little easier to get around if you're in Tokyo and be able to go to different regions of Tokyo and catch different Pokemon that way. I can't imagine doing that like in my hometown, for example, where there was a bus system that barely worked. But it's interesting.
But they randomize stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Like there's definitely programming going on, and if there are a lot of people coming together in certain cities to catch Pokemon, you'll know they'll program more to those cities. Whereas like for everywhere else, they'll have smart automation and integration. But
right.
I mean, I really like this concept. I was always hoping for a game that wasn't Pokemon super light on the mobile phones. And it feels like they have everything that you need in there.
Yeah.
The question is, how many Pokemon will there be, right? Like
they only showed Gen 1.
we don't know that yet.
How many microtransactions will there be?
But so far, so good.
On the point of only showing Gen 1, that was weird to me because they could have shown newer Pokemon. But
that is the most iconic gen.
I also think that they're trying to appeal to older players here because I've talked about this before, but kids don't always have smartphones. I think younger.
More than you think now, yeah.
I would not buy my kid a smartphone.
Think about it, though.
It's the first request on the Christmas list when they're like 9 or 10. I would not be surprised.
Like 12-year-olds take the bus to school by themselves. Do you want to know where they are? Do you want to be able to reach them in an emergency? I think as a parent, I can tell you, I always said no. And then suddenly you're sitting there and you have an old iPhone because you upgraded. It's very easy to give your kid an iPhone.
Well, but still, there were only a few kids in that trailer. It was mostly kind of young adults, and so I did think maybe they're using Gen 1 to appeal to nostalgia, or maybe people who dropped off from the main series. They want to get them back into the main series.
I think that's a great point. Most of the people in that trailer were older folks, or like the girl in Times Square at the end, which I do want to segue to the raid. That they talked about.
The raid was awesome.
They called it a raid, and people were running through 42nd Street to try and basically work together to battle a Mew. So, Francisco, I want to ask you, Mewtwo. Sorry, a Mewtwo. Corrected. But
They have different Pokedex numbers, Jose.
Yeah.
So
Here we go. Was
Mew-
151,
I feel like
152.
Mew, you can just talk into joining you.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
It's cute. It's true. But outside of having to travel to South America for a Mew, what I do want to ask you, Francisco, is was there a similar concept in Ingress, like something where there was an event that everyone sort of worked together to defeat or compete in?
Yeah, actually, we have I think from this morning when we went to pick up amiibos at the store, and we were kind of like in the middle of nowhere. There were really no portals to capture, but if you go out to a more popular area, like here in San Francisco, you get closer to the Golden Gate Bridge. There are bigger portals, and yeah, the people at Ingress, they do make events so people gather together at like popular big monuments like the Golden Gate Bridge.
are there location exclusive events or?
I'm not sure about that. But
Okay, that's a good question. I guess the last thing I want to ask you is, wait, did you want to
No,
add to the
I'm
raid?
just curious. How was the reception by fans? Like,
It
what
seemed to
have
be
you heard
very
from Pokemon
positive.
fans?
It seemed to be very
'Cause-
positive, at least feedback-wise.
Because it's always tough to cut through the kind of the snarky console gamer mentality where like anything go into a mobile game, they object because that's not a platform they game on. But like the general reaction seemed really positive from what I saw.
Yeah, a lot of my friends who aren't as dedicated to the main series of Pokemon games were very, very excited to go back to it through this venue, right? Like Eric Sapp, who works here, is not super into Pokemon, and he is stoked about this game
Nice,
because of the
He
AR.
screamed and ran out of the room with his beard.
He texted me in all caps. He was so excited
Right.
because it's kind of like you're one step closer to Pokemon in real life, which is all of us Pokemon nerds.
Yeah.
Like that's what we want, to
Yeah.
be Pokemon
Well-
masters in real life.
Yeah, and this thing, if anything, is the closest thing to the MMO concept without tying you to a computer playing an MMO, which I think, people have wanted that for years, and my argument has always been MMOs are not for kids. This is not I don't think this would fly based on those reasons. Pokemon always has to be accessible to everyone. I think that's their biggest goal with that
Right.
franchise. And the minute you tie it up in an MMO, that becomes a bit too hardcore.
Yeah.
So this phone thing is absolutely the best way to marry that to it has a raid. Come on.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
And like to me, it's a sign that Nintendo is willing to take some new steps on tried and true franchises too, right? Like a lot of people always ask for the Pokemon MMO.
Yeah.
Can we all work together in this
Yeah.
big world? This is a step towards that, testing out, with the one system that has the least friction with being connected, the mobile phone, which is huge in Japan as well, right? Whereas like general kind of console online gaming is not huge over there.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a good first step.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is coming in 2016. There is a closed beta in winter of 2015. So I don't know if sign-up information has been revealed yet, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye out for this.
So I have two questions for you. Do you think this is part of Nintendo's overall mobile strategy when they talked about mobile games, or is this outside and more Pokemon Company
Let
driven?
me stop you there.
One.
Remember, Pokemon Company is a separate entity.
Exactly.
Nintendo is one of 3 partners at that table. So
Yeah.
I would say no.
No, this is
but
separate,
in a year
right?
that Nintendo was going mobile, there's no way Pokemon was not going to take a serious step towards the mobile direction.
But I feel like this was in the works before even kind of like the announcements of Nintendo embracing Pokemon, because we also saw the trading card game already from the Pokemon company, right, going to mobile phones.
Right.
The second is this one of the quality of life products that we've heard about?
It is definitely a wearable, I guess. Is it? Would that qualify? The Pokemon Go Plus?
Well, it gets you out and moving, no?
yeah, actually. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, no.
I had a request, and I don't know if it would make it through, but wearables up and coming. We already have a wearable from Apple, the Apple Watch, and Android's pushing Android Wear. And I was hoping, I know they announced the Go Plus, but it would be also awesome if they did make a wearable app, because then you're gonna start wearing all these wearables like your Apple Watch, your Pokemon Go Plus, your Google Glass. And
Do you have an Apple Watch?
no, I don't.
No, we got one for the office though.
Yeah,
And,
I've
we got
seen
to
you
check that
wear
out.
one in the office,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you were just kind of developing some stuff for IGN,
Yeah.
right? Like playing around with watch face and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, you just made an interesting point that just the wearable thing to me, I think if and when Nintendo is ready to enter that market, first of all, this sleep thing, I don't know how that fits into that, but it would not shock me if Wii Fit was the vehicle for whatever this thing is, just because of how well that did. But when you look at how that did on Wii U, it did not do quite as well.
No.
Right.
So maybe that
It was a weird
I think
model,
it's in
too.
that.
Yeah.
I think it's in that wheelhouse is
Yeah.
where I would put that bet versus
Yeah.
anywhere else.
Well, I mean, Wii Fit was a huge success because everybody had already bought the machine for Wii
Right.
Sports, and then suddenly you released this hardware add-on that did something very unique at the time, right? Now you can get an Xbox One with a subscription to their fitness plans, and like it's no longer that unique, but maybe they got a great idea for something wearable that ties in with mobile phones. We'll see, right? Because it is a known brand still.
I'm still hoping for, like, in the Pokemon anime, you get like a little Pokedex thing pop up when you see the Pokemon in real life, and it's like Pidgey, the bird Pokemon. And like I would,
Oh,
I'd be
that
so
voice?
happy. Yeah,
That would be good.
that would complete my whole life. That would be a quality of life device
Yeah.
in my mind.
Oh, wow.
I think one thing though that will definitely be the thing to watch out for, at least in terms of this reception and when it comes out, this game, is what it's going to do to your phone. I mean, we had this conversation a little bit, right? So
Yes.
what is it? What do we got going on here?
Gotta drain
Yeah,
them
so
all.
the Pokemon Go Plus is already using
Bluetooth.
low energy. The app itself is using GPS to track your location and alert you if there's a Pokemon nearby. So, and then if you, on top of that, you have a wearable device. So if you're one of those lucky users out there with a Apple Watch, yeah, your phone's definitely gonna take a hit on battery life.
Yeah. So
and
those,
data.
Yeah.
Too.
And data.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta drain them all. You think
Yeah.
that's
Gotta
pretty
drain
good.
them
It's
all.
not a lot of, but it's not a lot of data they're sending through. I feel like
I hope
and
not.
Nintendo has always been pretty good at optimizing, and obviously this mobile company is smart about that too. So we'll see. I'd be surprised if it made a huge dent into your data plan and how it works.
But I think another bummer is, and this is something that affects Pokemon Shuffle, which we also had a recent encounter with, which is when with this game, with Pokemon Go, it makes sense that it has to communicate with a server for the whole GPS thing, for the whole, Shuffle is a game that just came out, which is about, sort of the match 3 concept. If you are not in a place with signal, you cannot play that game.
Right.
That is a huge bummer. I feel like unless you're making a transaction to the store and you're trying to buy something, why does that have to be that way? And I worry that with this game, I do feel some people are going to try and jump in and maybe not want to opt into some of the GPS stuff. Do they still get an experience, or are they completely barred from it?
I don't know. I feel like if this game's selling point is real life GPS-based encounters, it's kind of tough to make the argument that it should work without it.
Okay.
Like
Whereas with Shuffle, it doesn't make sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
you get this game because of that fact. It's like when you download Waze, right? You're not downloading going like, I want to see maps when I don't have GPS, right? Like, it feels like you're opting into that experience.
Yeah. If the whole concept of the game is the GPS tagging of Pokemon, I don't think that would be considered exclusionary. Whereas with Pokemon Shuffle, that is very strange.
There's
because it
no
doesn't have-
reason for
there's
it. Exactly.
No reason.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It feels like something you should be able to play on an airplane.
Right.
Anything to add?
No, just, I was going to add that there are APIs in both iOS and Android that track your location, but in a battery efficient way. That it will only report your location when you moved a significant amount. So it
interesting.
won't track you like meter by meter, but within like kilometers. So there are battery efficient ways to pull your location. So
You're still on the metric system, huh?
yeah, kilometers.
Yeah, me too. Hey.
Nice. And
wish
API for
I
folks
was.
at home who don't know what that means. Just give them a quick
Okay,
one.
yeah. So if you're doing software development, iOS and Android, and API is just like a function that Apple provides if you're doing iOS in their mobile development system. So yeah.
Cool. And this is why we have him on the show, ladies and gentlemen. He breaks it down. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I don't think you're going to be here. You're not going to be able to stay with
No,
us?
I have to go man the iOS development.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
You're
so
gonna
we're
fix some bugs?
I'm gonna go fix some bugs.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to lose Francisco. Thank you so much for joining us. When we come back, we have still some more things to discuss. Stay with us.
Listen.
Welcome back. Jose Otero here with Per Schneider.
Hi, Jose.
And Callie Pleggy.
Hello.
Francisco will no longer be with us for this half of the
Aw.
show, but we do have to keep discussions going. And the first thing I want to talk about is some NPD numbers came out, or some numbers from Nintendo, because NPD, which is a monthly report on sort of the top selling games, that doesn't tell you numbers, but tells you the order in which they were ranked, came out. not a big surprise. No big or solo Nintendo title in the top 10. There was no big release in August. So,
but there were some big releases on the other machines, right?
There were,
Yep.
yes. Madden NFL. Minecraft wasn't last month, but Minecraft is forever.
It's always
on the NPD.
last month.
Always, yeah.
Here's
Well, it's
World
updated
Ultimate.
every month.
Yeah,
So.
Right.
GTA 5. The one cross-platform title which is on Wii U is Lego Jurassic World. And then you had Rare Replay, Until Dawn, Call of Duty Black Ops Combo Pack, Batman Arkham Knight, and
Rare.
Call of Duty Advanced Warfare is still selling.
Yeah,
Really?
I mean it's funny because the Destiny wasn't in there.
No.
But Destiny's gonna be in there now again,
Next
you know,
month for
and so
sure.
Taken
we
care,
we
yeah.
sometimes get the questions, why do you cover certain games the way you cover them, right? Like Destiny's one of them, Call of Duty's one of them, Grand Theft
GTA
Auto is
5
one of
is
them,
one of them.
Metal Gear is one of them,
Always
and it's
get
like
comments.
these are so big. There's just such a broad audience of people who buy these games for a long time.
Yeah.
If anything, we don't cover Madden enough, you know.
Yeah,
Right.
no, we don't. So then,
And Pokemon.
From Nintendo, we
why
got a
I
few
know.
numbers. First of all, Splatoon sold 600,000 copies in the U.S.
That's great.
That's amazing,
good.
yeah.
New
Much better than I
franchise.
thought it would do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes me
absolutely.
happy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
You have
Splatoon.
joined the
And
Splatoon,
I love
the Inkling pool. That's
Splatoon.
right.
Over
Yes.
a million
I'm a kid
units in
now.
Japan too, so
Yeah, yeah.
it does still feel like it's just Japan playing though. When I get on in the evening to play, all the players are Japanese.
That happens to me too.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
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 It's fun because I can practice my kana though, because I'm trying to read their names.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
not complaining.
But
Yeah, no, I guess that's true, but it's still a game that, for the most part, the people who love it are still talking about it. Like just today, we're getting another weapon. There's a new nozzle nose coming out tonight. That's a weapon. That's a weapon. Don't make fun of me. That's a weapon. It's
You're a
thing.
nozzle nose.
It's a thing. That's each week. This rollout really worked in their favor. We talked about that before. If you are on the fence about this thing, I really recommend that you check it out because today it's a much different game.
yeah, it's just a really good game. We talk about Splatoon a lot, but it's because it is very unique in the lineup of Nintendo games and how they replicated the fun of kind of classic Mario Kart at home online. It's just such a tense game, man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
down to the last minute, you were
Some of
sitting
them.
there going, "Oh yeah." Sometimes you're just owning another team, but the matchmaking
Or
now
getting owned.
is good enough. Yeah.
It's always nice when you get the results and it's like within such a small
Oh, yeah.
portion of a percent. You're like, yes,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
the best.
No, and that's my favorite too. When
Yeah.
the cat is sort of deciding, and you're looking at the paint behind him, and you go,
Like,
"I'm
I
not
can't
sure.
tell. I don't know."
I don't know."
Yeah.
And then, but my least favorite thing is that cat also does that when you have been wiped out.
Yeah.
He's just there, like, "I wonder who's gonna win." It's like, no.
I'm like,
It should be more obvious.
be a
Like
jerk.
he should be standing there like shaking his head or
Face
something.
palming or
No,
something.
the best endings are when you're almost even, and then there's this last ink strike on the match screen going.
Yeah.
You're like, "Ah," you know.
Absolutely. All right.
Splatoon's always the one. I was talking to somebody the other day about they were getting a Wii U for Mario Maker, for Super Mario Maker, and I was like, if you're gonna do that, you have to get Splatoon. Like it's always one I recommend
Yeah.
to people, and they don't think about kind of first. But
Yeah,
I
no, definitely.
I really love that
Be
game.
nice if that bundle was available in other stores. I think it's Best Buy only,
Really?
which is a shame.
We
Because,
might we might have to get a second Wii U in the house this year,
Hmm.
just because of Splatoon and yeah. Well, no,
That
daughter
GM.
Christmas present. Don't listen to this, honey.
Whoa. Well,
You know.
All right. So then also we heard Nintendo sold 7 million Amiibo in the U.S. as well. That's big.
dang.
Not even a year. It's going on a year real soon. I think November 21st.
It's big. It could be bigger.
Could be bigger, but
Yeah, I mean, if you compare it
find
to,
them,
look at Skylanders and Infinity, and all of which sell at much higher numbers. Add zeros
Right.
is what I'd say for those, but they're also widely available.
Yeah, I was
and,
gonna
like,
say the Amiibos have
there-
that restriction on them that
there are only
Skylanders
so
doesn't.
many Marios people want to buy.
makes you wonder. And
Yeah.
we've talked about this before. I think that the Smash set was both the best and worst way to roll this out, only because with the Smash set, no one really anticipated this rollout of, okay, this wave is coming in 3 months.
Yeah,
This next wave is coming in 6 months.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
I still love though that we're getting every freaking character. It's just so cool. Like
So we-
that's almost OCD.
So we went to Toys R Us this morning in Pinole, and we saw a huge line. Actually, I'm feel sad I didn't get to talk about this while Francisco was here, but we went this morning. Huge line. A lot of people excited about just getting Amiibo. They actually had the whole set while we were waiting. They had a ton of Bowser Jr.'s, so maybe if you're lucky by the time you're listening to this, that was a Toys R Us exclusive. You should go check that out. it wasn't a terrible shopping experience. I actually talked to the first guy in line because I was like, why not try doing my job? Let's see what happens here. And we got to talking. I felt really bad because he gave me an answer I didn't anticipate, but then he also shared a lot of things that I thought were really cool. So first of all, he was from Fresno. His name was Chris. What's that?
Talking.
Talk about that real quick.
Well, Amazon's Amiibos went on sale, right? Like, and they rolled out the classic color Mario Classic Color Amiibo at 3:00. And they're all gone, of course, and then they're only the scalpers left. $49, $64, $71, $100 plus $3.99 shipping, and it's like that is still the frustration we have, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But anyway, so I met this dude in line. He came all the way from Fresno. He said that the advantage of shopping in Pinole was that no one ends up at the store. So I asked him what time he got there. 1:30 in the morning. No. He had been standing outside.
Wow.
Yeah. He was hardcore about it, but he was super approachable, super nice. Shout out if you're listening to this, Chris. Thanks a lot for taking a few minutes to talk to me. There was just, from what I could tell, enthusiasm. No one really felt like a scalper. All you heard were different people talking about different Nintendo games.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah. There was this one quiet guy. I wonder if he was a scalper. Insert dun dun dun. Here. Yeah. All right. Yep. So. That was that. All right. Last thing I want to end on, actually two things. One thing we have forgotten to mention on the show is that Xenoblade got a collector's edition. I'm just curious if you guys are excited or interested, or I was surprised to hear about it myself. Heard pre-orders already went up for it. If you can find it, it seems like a good deal. I'm actually bringing up some of the details on it now. $89.99 special edition will release alongside standard edition on December 4th. This was announced at PAX Prime. I feel really bad that we did not talk about this, but included is a copy of the game, an art book with more than 100 pages of concept art, a matted art card featuring an illustration from the artist, Takashi Kojo, and a Xenoblade themed USB drive. So if you're into that stuff, and it has preloaded with 10 music tracks from the game soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nintendo doesn't do special editions very often. Yeah. It's really cool to see them pick a hardcore game like this for one.
Yeah, I feel like those are the perfect games to do that with, though. You know, like personally, right. I'm not in the market for another USB drive. That doesn't get me excited. I do like when bundles include like statues or certain kind of things that you can't find in stores afterwards.
Yeah, I kind of would have wanted that for mine. I think like having one of the skulls in there.
Yeah, cool. Or an amiibo.
Again, not this game, not yet.
No, but it's we've played this game. Obviously, it's a really cool game. If you're into RPGs, definitely put this one on your list. And like the Nintendo collector's editions always sell out
quickly. Yeah. So
it's a good choice because the hardcore crowd is the kind of crowd that'll spring for that collector's edition, right? Also, I love art books and art stuff, so that's all. I love when that's included in collector's boxes of any kind.
Absolutely.
I will put that on my wall 100%. I love that.
Sweet. Yeah, we're lucky here in San Francisco. You go to Japantown, you can go into like the Kinokuniya bookstores or any of those, and there are so many art books for video games there. It's insane, right? Like there's a huge market for this stuff in Japan. And you can find them and you will see them go like, that's a really obscure game and that has an art book.
Yeah, that bookstore is the best.
We're sitting here, we get all those books, but in a lot of cities it's much harder to find that stuff.
You can track down some of them on Amazon, but it is hard.
And
it's very hard.
That's why it's cool to see this done for what is a smaller game.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, there's a Mario 30th anniversary art book coming out apparently in Japan. There is a Splatoon one coming out in October in Japan, along with an album called Splatoon, which I absolutely love the name. Splat and then T-U-N.
You know I love the music. I think the music's so awesome.
It's really good. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about, I want to have a general discussion about. So we're driving back from Toys R Us. My mind started wandering to Zelda Maker, which is something that I threw out there as a prediction on this very podcast in one of our E3 prediction episodes. As something that I thought at the time made a lot of sense. I said, well, looking at Mario Maker, looking at how you're sort of putting together 30 years of history in a way that makes sense and is very easy to design, very easy to make courses with. after spending as much time with Mario Maker as I have, I'm actually here to say that I don't think Zelda Maker makes a ton of sense anymore. And I'm curious to hear what you guys think on this. So at the time the pitch
I have an
was
opinion.
Zelda, the original, Link to the Past, and A Link Between Worlds. There aren't 4 art styles unless you count like a Four Swords Adventures, GameCube like look. But here's where it's different. In Zelda, in Mario, the abilities between games changed significantly. In Mario 1, you could not pick up a turtle shell. In New Super Mario Brothers, first time you can wall jump. Take out the power-ups for a second too. Butt stomps, things like that. Like you saw a progression in not just the look of the game, but mechanically in those games. I'm not sure that translates to items in Zelda. Think about the bow and arrow. Think about the boomerang. Think about like these things that have become staples of that series. They kind of work the same every time.
But you're hung up on the concept to make it exactly like Mario Maker, where you have changing tile sets and all that, right? To me, that's a little bit more like, hey, you could adjust the graphics on the fly, and all the abilities could be the same across the games. I wouldn't see an issue with that kind of approach.
I think I would.
But I think the challenge with Zelda is, what do you allow? If you have a Zelda Maker that's more like a Four Swords setup, or like the new one. God, I'm drawing a blank. What's the
Triforce Heroes?
Triforce Heroes.
What's three swords called exactly? Triforce Heroes, the Legend of the Windbag. Thank you for that T-shirt. That was amazing. But they're. Where you have something that is more of a one dungeon challenge, you have a limitation where maybe you have one item per character. It becomes a different story.
And you're jumping ahead here, but that was my next point, where it was going to be, hey, what do you allow in terms of when you activate the switch, what triggers? What doesn't trigger? What happens there? Even the way dungeons end. If you look at Zelda through the years, they don't always end the same.
Yeah. I'm just like, I'm processing this because this is the first time you told me about this. This is the best. I love this. No, my first instinct was like, like top-down Zelda totally makes sense. And now I'm thinking, and I'm like, I would be so bad at that game because Zelda dungeons are next level to me sometimes, especially the farther back you go. So like I could handle maybe designing a Link Between Worlds dungeons because I found those to be significantly easier.
Yeah, but even look at that dungeon. Like you're gonna turn into a painting on the wall and go around. Like how do you help people understand how to use that?
No, I hear you.
Sure.
It is the beauty.
Mechanics. I didn't mean to cut you off though. I wanted Callie to finish her point. I'm sorry.
No, that was my point. Is I was just tying it into the Triforce Heroes kind of model, where if there were limitations placed on what you could do that were puzzles in and of themselves, like if each character can only have one weapon or whatever the limitation is that would make the player have to think about it that way and not in the most nebulous way with Zelda, that's when it would work. I don't know. I feel like it would be really, really difficult to come up with a good level or a level that was understandable for someone to just kind of jump in.
Well, there's a certain language with Zelda dungeons, right, in terms of the item you need for that dungeon and what that item can do. And I don't get me wrong, I think there is a community of people on the internet who would be very talented at making these things, but I don't know if it translates to something that scales quite as wide as Mario Maker.
It's not, because it isn't. It's a puzzle game more than a skill game, right? Like with Mario, it's so easy to create a level and just get going, and like for it to be even the shortest level, for it to be instantly fun, like jumping on enemies. With a Zelda game, it's a very different setup, right? Because already like, why should I fight any enemy in a level? There has to be a goal, right? Is the goal to open the door, or am I discovering something? Do I have to push blocks? Like, it's a way different game.
It's something I'd want to see, but I think it's something that presents a huge design challenge.
Yeah, I like what you said about it being there's a language to dungeons, whereas with Mario, I mean, you know, the more Mario you've played, maybe the easier it is to jump into Super Mario Maker right away. But, I mean, we talked to Francisco earlier, like, his wife was playing, and she's not a huge gamer, and she just jumped right in and started designing, whereas if I were to give, my mom a Zelda Maker, she's never played a Zelda game, she'd probably not even know where to begin, even if there was the most simple tool set. There's just, you have to be more familiar with the series, I feel like, for that to work as well.
Yeah. It's like when I think about a game like Portal, right, where the puzzles can get very complex. like, could you make a level editor? Sure, but man, that would be so daunting, right?
Right.
Like, that's where
When they did,
you
people
have
made
to,
their own puzzles in Portal on PC, and I've heard
but
it
it's
ranges from really good to really
But it's a
bad.
very specific audience that
Right.
can create, whereas Mario Maker really is for everyone. You heard Francisco talk about, you know, Bianca being able to just step in and start creating, and that's the beauty of that game, I think.
But I think
Exactly.
with Zelda, that could happen. I just think that the minute you have to sit down and add logic to everything is when you go, herp, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I really don't think it would have the same turn on immediately start playing building.
Yeah. I mean, we
appeal.
care. As Zelda fans, we care.
Yeah, as someone who's played lots of Zelda games, like I would be 100% interested in seeing this game, and I do believe that there are people who are talented enough to make playable levels and good levels and levels I would want to see, but it's not the same as Super Mario Maker in any sense to me.
I was actually surprised when you brought up Zelda and Zelda Maker when we first talked about it, because there's so many Nintendo franchises that lend themselves to level editors in a different way. And they've done it obviously for F-Zero and stuff like that, and
in the past,
Game Boy Wave Race, all those. But like, you think of Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong is like tailor-made for a tile set, level editor, a confined stage or a set of 4 stages with this kind of story. Like, those games lend themselves to it much more than Zelda, where you would have to have some sort of language to say, if this switch pressed, then that door open. If this enemy defeated, then
That's
whatever.
a lot
you
more
know?
like programming languages
Yeah.
are formatted in that.
Well, and
way.
and that's a great
Minecraft,
point to make.
you know?
Well, it's
Yeah.
not just Minecraft. WarioWare DIY tried its hand at that logic, that programming side of it, and it was something that made sense, but you still had to kind of work to get it.
Yeah, I mean, like I've taken
Yeah.
programming classes. Like I have a basic knowledge of how that would work. So
If-then
that's
statements, yeah.
that. Yeah, if thens and recursive statements and stuff like that. That wouldn't be daunting.
No
to
recursing
me.
on here.
Yeah.
Jose's in the room. Shh.
I'm not the cops.
You're on fire with the puns today.
Yeah.
We caused Jose great pain before the podcast by just doing all our
You
mic
didn't
tests
cause me
as
any
curses.
Hang
Well,
on, you didn't
no,
cause me any
Jose
pain.
was-
I
just
felt
get it
like you were a
out
little
now.
hard constrict.
Well, no, you
Well,
were.
we kind of have to be. It's
you
a
were
family show.
You were surprised by me, which.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was. I'd never heard that kind of language.
No.
How you kiss your mother with
Yeah,
a
I recited my favorite moment from Curb Your Enthusiasm's Tourette sequence.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Cool,
Tourette
cool.
said.
But where was
This is why I don't like tangents. They pull
Oh, he
people
hates
away
it.
from
Oh,
points,
he hates
and
it.
you will never
and then-
return.
We're talking about
about-
if-then statements and
just-
recursive
but
cursing.
for someone who, if that was their first exposure, I could see that actually helping people learn, the language of programming, not programming languages, but the overall idea of programming. Like
Takes-
maybe that'd be a cool learning thing for a kid. I don't know.
Takes
Like,
a certain brain, though.
you got to be able to kind of tune into that.
Yeah, and with Mario Maker, just because everyone can make something doesn't mean they're making stuff that's good. I've seen a lot of levels that were clever, and I've seen some levels that I'm just like, this makes no sense. Like I don't get the logic here. Some of them though have been very crafty in making puzzles out of things you never would have thought.
Yeah.
When Brendan and I played a series of stages recently, we did this on Made in Mario where the first stage was in Super Mario World, and it was a puzzle where you had to send one spiny shell to the right, one spiny shell to the left, and if you timed it right, they would knock down a catapult, so you would catch it. You have to use the catapult to activate other blocks so that the spiny shells could fall and sort of trigger something else. So it turned into this strange Rube Goldberg, except it wasn't. You had to, flip certain switches. But when you got it right, you got a feather, which was the only way to get out of the stage. Now you have a cape so that when you basically took a pipe back to the start of the level, you can run across, fly, and make it through the goal.
No, that's great.
And I thought that was
That's
clever.
super clever.
But it was something that a lot of trial and error came with it because there's no language there. There's nothing being said to you, written on the screen.
But that's like classic video
kinda
games.
test around.
Like, remember playing
is.
Raiders of the Lost Ark on the Atari VCS
I'm
and
not
going
that
like,
old.
I don't know what's going on.
I'm really not
I
that
did.
old, yeah.
Like, we had to all figure all that stuff out. Yeah, that's why we're so smart.
Yeah. All right. Well, Zelda Maker, I hold out hope that if there's any company that can figure it out, I do believe it would be Nintendo. But I have reduced my enthusiasm for believing it will be.
Would you say you've curbed your enthusiasm?
Possibly, I have, and I have also reached the end of this podcast. We are done. Thank you so much for listening to Nintendo Voice Chat. We are a weekly show on IGN, but we are not the only show on IGN. And in fact, there's plenty of things you could check out that we make. We got a new series Made in Mario. We're trying to do them daily. If you're not watching them, guess what? We're not going to make them. So check those out.
Watch them 20 times.
Yeah, you can see cool stuff on Snapchat. I'm not going to argue with you. You can see. Sorry.
Are you gonna make some levels to share too, or like,
we're working on that part.
Okay.
We're working on that part. I've made a few under my Japanese Wii U that most people haven't found, even though it's super obvious.
Okay.
It's me.
All right. I will recreate the stage that we played together
Nice.
over the weekend. I'm gonna have to rebuild it. I can rebuild it from our Let's Play by just looking at it.
Do pauses. Yeah, I'm sure someone out there is done.
Yeah, and then
people are sharing levels.
I'll share it on my
sharing
Twitter, and then maybe we'll post it in the podcast in the future.
We'll build maybe an IGN wiki where we can stockpile this stuff. It's just please understand that it is hard to we'd have to recreate these from scratch because these were made on prior builds of the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So what else? You can leave us feedback. Email us at nvc@ign.com or head on over to iTunes. Leave us a review. We always appreciate your feedback. And lastly, you can find us all on Twitter. So I'm going to speak for Francisco. You can find him at Kikin81, Kikin81. You can find Pear at
Pear IGN.
You can find Callie at
Inky Dojiko.
He says it in the same voice every time.
Yeah.
I have to do this on Anime Club as well. I do a little dance. It's
Okay.
INKYDOJIKKO.
It's a mnemonic device. She's totally trying to help you out.
It's
All right.
Japanese.
And you can find myself, Jose_Otero on Twitter. Thank you very much for listening. And we will be back next week with more Nintendo Voice Chat.
Get the thing.